Welcome back to the channel of Truth, Trust and Transparency. Unfortunately, guys, the subs are drying up. I'm slowing down a bit, which is not good. 574 to get between now and the end of the year. I've got just around 40 days to get 578. So let's see how we go. Back at it again with another one of your questions. This one's an interesting one. And again, before I jump into this, of course, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a mortgage broker. I'm not an accountant. But if you asked for my opinion, I'm going to give you it. I'm going to record it. I'm going to upload it to the internet for educational purposes only. So you and other people in a similar situation have some things to think about, and they can go and chat to their team about their circumstances. Now, guys, what's really cool about what I do that I was talking to someone yesterday about is, and this question made me think about it, which is why I chose it. But you guys know I've got a property investment course. I put that in the bottom of each description, should you need that help and you don't want to go down the BA path. But the best thing about doing the development stuff and doing what I do is that is where I make the bulk of my money. I don't need to sell you on dreams. I don't need to, tell you that everything's going to be all right and promise you the world and bullshit to your faces. The best part about what I do for work is that I can tell you and I can be completely honest and transparent and cutthroat on this channel, which is what I do. Maybe it's only why I'm getting 200 views a video, who knows, but I can do that because I know I'm not motivated by money, so I can always tell people the honest, cold hard truth. Sometimes people do want to hear that, sometimes people don't want to, but I can always do that because I know that's the right thing to do, and I don't actually need your money, which is the most relieving thing. A lot of people out there, whether they're people creating courses or buyer's agents, they've got those overheads. They need that money. They rely on that sort of income. To me, I can make 10, 100x in development than I can in this course world. So I'm always going to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. It's up to you. But I'm going to say this person's name is G. They've asked me to keep it anonymous. Well, G, this is the classic example of you can't have your cake and eat it too. Because I'm going to read out this question and then I'm going to tell you guys my thoughts. Hi, been enjoying your daily YouTube content. Hope you can assist with the question. Looking to retire in 10 years on $150,000 passive income. Ages at 43 and 42. We have an owner OC for 2.1 mil, 650K debt on the Central Coast, and an investment on the Central Coast, 1 mil value with $970,000 of debt. Returning 1060 per week after the granny fight is now complete. We have recently done 2 additional loan split equity releases, 250K equity, and then this 70K here, I believe that is equity or used as some sort of equity. For 2 more investment property purchases, broker advised we need the next purchase to be in a trust so we don't get stuck, which we recently set up. Pre-approval for the 700K trust purchase. Looking to purchase in trust, looking for VIC to spread risk, and then an additional final purchase in our personal names. Approximately 580K in super and open to additional purchases in self-managed super fund. What would you do to reach our goal? Time poor, so renovations not an option. Approximately 350K combined regular income. 350K. Appreciate your time. Gee, I would like to retire in 5 years on 500 grand, but we need to be realistic here. You've seen me do previous videos where people are starting, they've got a really good head start or they've got a base of a few properties. Here, you've got a property that's loaned at about 100%, so there's nothing much that we can do here. You've got a PPR with some debt against it, but not much. I don't want to sound mean or anything, but if you have an income of $350,000 and you only have expenses of a property portfolio of maybe 35, 40 grand, I don't know why there isn't a huge cash base sitting somewhere. Maybe you've been paying off your debt of your PPR, maybe you haven't, but to me, I don't know what's going on in your life. I don't know if there's heartache. I don't know if there's anything there, but usually 350K, you know, people that are on that sort of money have some sort of savings or have a couple more investments. So for this particular presentation today is going to be about you can't have your cake and eat it too. 150K in 10 years time would be fantastic, but we've got to work with what we got, unfortunately. So I want to address superannuation first, because that's the easiest play here. You're not going to get access to that in 10 years time, but when you do get access to it, it's going to be extremely fruitful. Why? And as you've seen in previous videos, with a 580K balance, you have more than enough funds in there to go 1, 2, 3 investment properties at 750K. I always try to think of self-managed super fund. We're buying a really good quality asset, especially if we're holding it for 20 years in this case. And 750 gets us into those really good suburbs. 750, you're putting in a 20% deposit, which is 150. You pay about 30 grand worth of stamps and 10K of other costs, meaning altogether is $190,000 by 3 is you're bang on your 580K. All we're going to do after we've bought those 3 is allow them to double and then double again. 10 years time, I'm leaving that. Could happen before, could happen after, but we're just going to use a typical average growth rate there, 7.2%. Now, when you're selling them, when you come up to that retirement age and you're selling them, that's when you need to get some advice from a really good financial advisor around this, because you're going to have 3 assets worth $3 million. The good part is that you'll have an 875 grand cost base, meaning when you sell, you'll make a profit of 2.125 million. Now, depending on the time and the age at which you do this, you can either not pay tax or pay tax. So if you were to do worst case scenario, and you sold this and you had to pay the tax that is in super, which is 15%, you'd pay 320 grand tax. You'd walk out with $1.8 million in cash profit after you've paid tax per property. Times that by 3 gives us $5.4 million. We could go out tomorrow after that purchase and we could buy a commercial property, and at 6.5% yield on a $5.4 million commercial property that we own outright with no mortgage, we'd be bringing in 350K a year. So rest assured, until I go through what is behind me, once we hit super, a very simple strategy, 3 properties in super, sell them and cash out. You can live a very, very, very fruitful life once you hit that retirement age at 350, with 350 grand a year coming in. That increases 4% a year. The benefit is as well, if we do that in a retirement age where we don't pay any tax on those superannuation, on those capital gain profits, the best part about that is that amount goes up to, I believe, that's 6.35. Let's round it up to 6.4 mil you'd have in cash. Again, we can put all that into, you don't have to put all of it, but if you put it into a commercial asset with 6.5% yield, that's 415 grand. So rest assured, if we put this to work now, we're proactive, we set up a self-managed super fund. This is a very simple process. 3 properties, we can get them done in 12 months and they're set and forget. Because you are on that high superannuation amount, because of that income, we've been making a very decent contribution, $42,000 a year with the rent and with the really big deposits. I see this as something that's quite doable. So something to keep in mind and act on. You know, don't sleep on that, because if you're just doing, let's just say you're doing $42,000 a year, 42 grand a year, that's going to be, you make those contributions for the next 20 years, that's 840 plus 580. So you'd have 1.4 mil, which is pretty good, but having 350 grand a year is a lot better. You know what I mean? Literally, divide that by $350,000. You would reach, so if you just make the contributions and keep this and don't listen to me, don't buy any property, don't leverage in a property, and we put your contributions for the next 20 years on top of your balance, it's the same, it's 4 years worth of the rent that you could have on a commercial property. Something to think about. Now let's get into the main portfolio. This one's a little bit tricky and isn't as sexy as most people. Now, what I've done here, you've got 250K in equity, 70 grand in cash, which you told me after. Meaning we have $320,000 to start off and start our property journey. Now, I wanted to split this into two assets as expensive as possible because we need, again, if we're going out and buying shitty little $300,000, there's not a problem with that. But think, that doubles to 600 after 10 years and doubles again to 1.2. 650 doubles to 1.3 after 10. And then if it goes again, it's 2.6. So there's levels to this. 100% growth at $300,000 property is 300. 100% growth at 650 is 650. That's why we try to get as expensive as possible. Now, let's talk about numbers. 20% deposits, 25K stamp duty, 10K of other costs means we're right on the money at 320,000. The issue that we're going to have with this, because the 250 grand is equity, we have an equity line and we have a little bit of cash. I would use the 70K cash to cover the stamp duty and the other costs. And that would mean that we're about 650 grand loan on top of 650 grand property. Meaning it'll cost us 15 grand a year to hold those properties. Now that is what it is. Unless you have cash to put down, which you've told me you don't, that's what you're up for, 15 grand a year to hold these properties. Not a huge deal. And remember, as rents start to increase, like if you get, for example, $100 worth of rent increases over a few years, that's a third of that cost. So in 10 years time, when the asset's worth 1.3, we have a cost base of 720, meaning we have a capital gain of 580, we have to pay tax, and we're out with 450 grand. This is the issue, because we don't have those asset bases to start off with, and people who have been watching these sorts of videos, you're going to start to see and hear me say the same things. This is good, because that means you're going to know what it needs to look like for you. But when I have 450 and I sell both of these, what's the issue? Well, I've got 650K against my PPOR, and I've got $970,000 against IP1. So technically, I could take this and then I could pay pretty much all that down, all this property down, and would be bringing in about $78,000 a year in rent, about 10 grand worth of costs, meaning I'd be making about $68,000 in 10 years. That's part one. But I said, look, can we get that up a little bit, and how can we get it up? So went on a little bit further, calculated this. Now, again, missing information, couple of assumptions here, but 350K, I've broken that up into two working people. One's earning 150, one's earning 250. 150 you're paying 40 grand tax, 250 you're paying about 90 grand tax, meaning together you guys are paying about $130,000 in tax a year. That brings your net income down to $220,000. I'm saying because of the portfolio and because of the PPR, we want to be saving about 20% of that, which I'll get into why it's only 4 years worth, but is $176,000. So what I've calculated here is that if we can put away 44 grand a year, in 3 years' time, in 2028, we'll be able to purchase property number 3, IP3, IP1, IP2, IP3. 650 again, exactly the same numbers on this, 450K. But again, our issue is that if we don't sell this down, because we've only got 10 years, it's not it's not passive income yet, and we don't really add to the $68,000 that we have here. So instead, I said, okay, well, if we've only got 10 years, after 3 years, we buy one, and then after 3 years again, we buy the second one, which is here. IP4. And for everyone that's been watching the last couple of these videos, what does that mean we end up with? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, sorry. IP1, that's IP2, IP3. This is IP4. This is IP 5. So again, how many properties do I get to? 5. This is what I'm telling you guys. That's the magic number in terms of the minimum. So I said, okay, in 2028 we buy one, and then 3 years later, we buy another one. The 3 years here is that 44 grand that we're saving. That means 3 years, 6 years, we have years 3, 6, and then we have an extra 4 years at the end, which will save up this 44K, and we'll use this 4 years after we've bought this property, $176,000. Now, the good thing is that in 2031, we buy again 650. Our debt is only 520 now because we're putting down the cash deposits that we're saving. That debt is going to cost us 28 grand plus the extra 10 that we know comes with the property of this cost, $38,000 in expenses. Yeah? Meaning, and in 4 years' time, the rent increases. This property is going to be bringing in about $45,000 in rent, meaning we're about 8K positive just because of the numbers. And that's in year 10 when we want to retire. We're selling off this property here. We've held it for 7 years. I've saying that it's doubled in 7 years. We're selling that off. We've got another 450K. Now, I'm taking my two 400Ks there and I'm paying off this property here. So we have that outright, 68 grand. I'm paying off the 450 here and I'm paying it off the debt of our PPR. That means 450, we've got 650 worth of debt. We'd have 200 grand left over debt against our PPR, which would cost about $11,000 a year. So it's not the end of the world, right? Now, what do? We use the 176 grand, which is maybe a little bit light, but then we could take and put a granny flat on this particular property. Again, adding about $30,000 a year in rent in this time period, in 10 years' time. 35 grand. 30 to 30, I'd say 35 grand rent in 10 years' time. Plus the additional 8 grand means we have $43,000 of rent coming in from this property. $43,000 coming in, majority because we're putting a granny flat down in cash, and then we still have the debt against this property that we need to either pay down or allocate. We then have $43,000 of rent here, and then we have 68. So the closest I could get you to 150 is actually 112 grand. Can't get you all the way there, but 112 grand. You're doing that when you're 52 and 53. You have 112 grand for the next 8 years. Then after that, your super can kick in at 60. You can get access to it. 350,000 on top. $351,000 on top. What do we equal? 463 grand a year. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look as good as a couple of the other ones, and some reasons for that is where we're starting from, what assets we have. We don't have too much cash. We're using equity on top of equity here, so it's going to cost a little bit to hold, and we're only giving it that one time frame. Go back yesterday and the day before, Amanda's video, if they're starting with 800K and they can put down 20% deposits, it's a very different story. So apologies, but unfortunately, that's the best that I can give you in the time that we get. Only 10 years. Remember, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have that dream, 150, whatever, $1,000. So 112, to be honest, you're going to have $11,000 your mortgage. So 100 grand really going to come out after you've paid that. It's not a bad solution at all. 100 grand, and then it obviously bumps up. But that is my approach to it. That is my thoughts, my thinking, that's probably the best that we can do. And as you guys have seen, that's 5 selling down. Ideally, if you can get yourself 5 and you can hold it for 2 growth runs, 2 10-year cycles, set and forget. It's game over. It's game over. It's only when we only go 10 and we're not sort of starting with the best base, is it difficult to get those higher numbers. But hopefully some value from this. Most importantly, you need to take You need to take action. This is a very large super amount that is doing very little that you want to start to have a think about as well. That's all for today, guys. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, emotions in the comments. And as usual, I'll see you tomorrow.